Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Hello, everyone.
All right, what are we doing this morning, Doc? What is it we're talking about?
Oh, I love this because I would say it's probably one of the more common reasons why we get a lot of questions with regarding patient conflict. It's trust but verify. To say it, verification is the act of confirming that what you are being told by patients is wrong and, in fact, is wrong. So, Paul, in your experience as a biller, would you say that it's relatively common that patients don't fully understand their insurance?
They don't know jack, to be honest, most of the time. And it's not even their fault. It's just health insurance is complex. And it does change. Benefits can change, all that wonderful stuff. Not so wonderful stuff. But I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen a patient will walk in and they'll put down their Medicare card. And if you take that as gospel without verifying on the Medicare portal, you're going to say, well, it's Medicare. There it is.
Right.
Come to find out, if you had only verified, you'd see, well, actually, they've got a Medicare Advantage or what we call replacement plan. So you don't even bill Medicare. But you won't know that until you bill it. You get the thing back. It says other party liable. That doesn't tell you who. And now you're chasing the patient, or now you're finally getting on verification of benefits. And if you're not doing that swiftly, these Advantage plans do have, 60 and 90-day timely filing limits. So,
Yeah. So how long does it take to verify benefits routinely? I know we can have exceptions.
if you're already set up with these portals, it takes, it might take 2 minutes. Probably the biggest pain in the butt is logging in, because now with these MFAs, multi-factor authentication, you've got to get a text message or an email code, and it just takes a minute to get logged in. So that's probably the biggest pain in the butt. And I can say right off the bat, if you're using your private or personal email, or your CA is using their private or personal email, you're making a huge mistake, because when they're not there or they're gone, forget it. Trying to get yourself into these things is hard. So,
Well, let me put some perspective here too, because, it's such a pain. It's such a pain. And you just said roughly 2, say 3 minutes times as many new patients as you might have in a week, which, say, a good active practice, 5, 10 new patients a week would be a good regular normal number. So we're talking about 20 minutes to a half an hour total for the week, right? To put it in perspective, I have a good friend who is an optometrist. 3-doctor office. They see 50 patients a day for routine eye exams. That means 50 patients a day need verification of benefits, because I'm going to see you today. I'm not going to see you for another year. So their front desks or their administrative staff has to verify benefits on 50 patients a day, not 5, 10 a week. 50 patients a day. So when it comes to complaining about verifying benefits, we're really not there.
Where people, I think, get caught up on verification of benefits. One, it depends on the time of year, because new calendar year, you should be asking everybody, has your insurance changed? And that question alone isn't enough, because they may have not changed carriers, but they might have changed plans, or they have a new ID number. So it really is, please present your new insurance card and let them tell you they don't have one. Or better yet, just verify everybody walking in the door, or someone who hasn't been in 3 months or more, verify their benefits. And if you're on, everyone has their own technique and their own choreography for new patients, but if they're on the phone, or maybe even if you have an online secure portal, ask them, what is your insurance? What is your ID number? What's your date of birth and your address and the gender or sex? And you can find this. Then you can search. You can search by ID number. You can search by family name, date of birth. Most of the time, you can achieve verification of benefits before they even walk in the door if you just get a few pieces of data
Yeah.
from them.
Well, if we were to just jump in there now, and I'm going to say 3 words: No Surprises Act.
Mm. Yeah,
When are you supposed to do this?
days before.
Days before. So people say, "Oh, well, I don't verify benefits till they show up at the office and they hand me their insurance card." Eh, wrong
Yeah,
time to do it. According to the law, it's the wrong time to do it, but also it's just not good practice because now you've got somebody coming into your office and you have not clearly defined how you're going to get paid for your services. And if it's not
right.
clearly defined and there's a difference of opinion because everybody thinks their insurance is the best in the world and it covers everything for everybody and everything at all times, forever and always, right? There's conflict. So
Yeah.
the No Surprises Act actually literally requires you to do this 3 days in advance, minimally, and send them a good faith estimate about what their first visit experience will be like.
Don't get me started on that because you're supposed to know what you're gonna be doing and what diagnosis they might have. I mean, it's a whole ridiculous.
Oh, and it's a simple thing in chiropractic. It's simplified. Just make sure they know what they're going to pay on day one before they show up. That
Most
avoids
offices are good about
anything.
knowing what the patient's gonna be
Mhm.
charged. They're not good about relaying that ahead of time. But also going back to the connection of verification in the process. Almost, I would say almost, if not all chiropractic practices now have a clearinghouse. It might be integrated with your electronic health record software or not, but most of them have a connection to verify. So literally you could, once you can make the connection, you could just hit a few buttons in your software and spit out the verification,
Yeah.
provided you have enough data in there to get it.
Shouldn't that connection, that information gathering, it should be when they call to make an appointment as a new patient. Very simple.
Yeah.
Give me your insurance number. What insurance do you have? Give me your number. What's your name on the card? And then you
Yeah.
verify
You
in
know,
advance.
some things that have changed over the years, right? Because I pick on you, but I've been doing this a while now myself. Not as long as you, but I've been doing
Oh,
it a while,
why,
you know? Yeah, thanks. Things that have changed. Someone who works for a particular employer group doesn't always have the same plan. Gone are those days where it's basically master medical or some indemnity plan, right? Like,
80, $25 copay,
yeah,
unlimited
that's
care, is that what you're saying?
over. As we say in New England, that's over. So
OVA.
yeah. So you can't just rely on their employer, information and the carrier name to say, "Yeah, that's what they have." So that's changed, as well as any hoops you might have to, run through as far as pre-authorizations or referrals and things like that. So probably the biggest challenge, especially for newer, staff people, is understanding what a verification means when you read it, like how to read one. And the one thing that HIPAA should have done that didn't do was standardize the look of verification of benefits. It standardized the claim format for both 835 and 837s, claims and ERAs, but it didn't standardize how you look at a verification of benefits, which is a bummer because your eyes have to get trained, just like when you're looking at remittance advices, your eyes have to get trained on that. But some highlights, right? When you're looking at a verification of benefits, docs and staff, you you're not just looking at, well, let's start with the first thing, doc. How many times have we heard this? I don't know if I'm in network or not. You
Yeah,
got to start there. You
yeah,
got to start
yeah.
there, right? You got to know
Why?
that. Now,
Why? Why? Just,
yeah,
whatever, you know?
I have my little shortcut though these days. When a CA is emailing us a support question or the doc, and they're not sure of the answer to that question, or am I in network or not? I said, go on to the carrier's website and go to the find a doctor and look yourself up. See if you individually in your group are showing up on their online directory. Right there pretty much cuts out like 90% of the effort because if you're on there you are. So
They at least think you're a member.
yeah, you're in network. So that helps. Once you know that, then it's really just looking at the specific chiropractic benefit and, is there a copay or a coinsurance? Is there a limit? Is there a requirement for referral or authorization? And you'll get to know the players or the carriers that often have those types of things.
Seems to me those are all pretty important pieces of information to know.
They are. And probably along the way, if you move past the new patient is when somebody's insurance updates at some point mid-year and you don't catch it because they don't tell you. Like they don't think about it. It's not on their mind to say, well, I had a Aetna card and now I've got a United Healthcare card. Why would I bother letting my providers know? Let them figure it out apparently. And you don't catch it for a while. Like that's probably the biggest thing that in the medical world, because they don't see the patient as much at all, right? They see him once a month or once every 6 months or every year. They don't see him a ton. They're so used to asking right away, "Has anything changed with your insurance? What's your or present your insurance card." It's tough for us in the chiropractic field to say that to someone who's coming in 3 times a week, right? Every single time they walk in, "Has your insurance changed?" But do you ask them once a month? Do you ask them once, if they haven't been in for a little stretch of time? Like,
Do you ask them?
and then here's the other bugaboo. Do you actually look in the computer to see if what they presented is what is in the software, or do you just assume that it's gonna be the same thing? I'm talking carrier name, ID number, group number. I mean, I've seen offices where they get the information and it scanned or goes in the file, but they actually never updated the computer. That's a
And
problem.
let's face it, patients really believe that verifying their insurance and understanding their insurance is your problem. You may assist and you certainly want to make sure there's very little reason to have conflict over money, but it's not that way. They actually think this is your job is to deal with the insurance, not mine. Here's my card, my magic little card, and that's it. You Now it's your
Yeah.
problem.
The insurance carriers have done a really good job of putting the provider in between the member carrier relationship and making the provider not only responsible, but the bearer of bad news when the coverage isn't what the patient thinks or it should be or wants it to be, you know? We always talk about, like, when you're talking to a patient about their coverage, always term it as their coverage, not the coverage or the coverage in our office, or it's always, "Mark, this is your insurance company, and here's what your insurance company told you about your coverage that we have printed out here for you to look at," you know? The ownership goes back to you 100% of the time, because the provider has no control over who you chose for an insurance or what coverage you could afford or not afford. But they've really done a great job of making the provider the messenger and the one that gets, the brunt of it when it's not always so good, you know?
Well, I mean, going back to the title, trust but verify, how many times might it be that a patient walks in there and you don't bother to verify, but you say, that's okay. I have a million patients with this insurance. And then all of a sudden, everything gets put toward a deductible that had never been met. And now this patient is stuck with this huge bill, if they had a huge deductible, this huge bill, and they're all upset. Well, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me I didn't use my deductible? Right? And
Yeah.
that's common. That's not a weird scenario. Now you have a conflict with your patient over money, which a lot of times conflicts with patients are over money. So
Most of the
why
time.
wouldn't you want to get all this squared away up front before you even start?
What's more irritating, while we're on the subject, don't get me going, is,
Well,
you as a provider office are subject to medical and reimbursement policies, right? You're in contract. This is what you have to follow. You report this to the patient. Things like, "I'm sorry, your adjustments are no longer going to be covered because now you are outside the medical policy for your carrier. This is maintenance," however you want to term it and educate it. Then what do? They give member services a call. And that member services rep says, "Well, no, you have chiropractic, so just tell them to bill it."
yeah,
They do
it's
that. This is what
unlimited.
they do.
Medicare's good for this, right? Oh,
Oh,
Medicare
forget
has
it.
unlimited chiropractic coverage for
Yeah.
all medically necessary services. And it comes out to be that your job is to verify what the coverage is, but also to fully explain it to the patient in advance, according to the law, right? In advance, so that when they come in, there are no surprises.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this story because this is the first time that it ever happened in my multiple decades of experience. In the billing company, the patient was a Medicare patient, signed an ABN, signed option 2, right? We're golden, don't have to bill Medicare, it's maintenance, right? All that fun stuff. And all of a sudden, the provider sends their insurance information, and I see this Medicare remittance advice, this EOB from Medicare, and it shows this patient, and Medicare paid the provider because it was submitted with the correct modifier, the AT modifier, if it was active treatment, right? And I'm looking in the software and I'm like, this patient's a cash person. How did this claim get to Medicare? And I noticed that on the remittance advice that the account number wasn't jiving with the system. So I knew it wasn't coming out of their system. This is the patient submitted the claim to Medicare and somehow knew enough, whether they
Which
were
they can't do,
told.
right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how this happened. They added the AT modifier. The patient did somehow. I don't know if they got advice from somebody that maybe they knew. I don't know. It was the first time I've ever seen this where the patient had a signed ABN, don't bother billing Medicare, and they tried to get the thing paid themselves. Well, now what is it? If we did nothing about this and a year later, Medicare decides to take a look at this claim, the notes aren't going to drive with active treatment, right? So I said to the provider, we're going to send in a corrected claim with a GA modifier. And this patient, uh-uh, forget
You can
about
go
it.
to the patient and get the money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you trust but verify. I'm gonna say verify then trust because you just these some of these patients are up to weird things and have again AI and Google can be dangerous things, right? Because who knows where they got the advice from to do
They're being
this.
told
It
when they
was
bought their
fraud. It was flat out fraud. And I said, if the patient calls, use that word because that's exactly what it is.
yeah, and their answer to you would be, "But that's what they told me to do."
Great.
Great.
Document
Do you
that
have that
and
in
give them a
writing?
call
Yeah.
back.
Do you have that in writing somewhere?
Yeah.
Because when the DOJ comes knocking on your door, you better have that verified.
Yeah, I was it was bizarre. It was, I just thought about that because 'cause I'm like, I never saw that before. That was amazing to me, not in a good way, and the provider was dumbfounded by it too, and I was just like, "Well, we're gonna handle it now so that down the road it doesn't become a problem, and you can let that patient know if they do it again, um, I'll be reporting more than just a corrected claim." So let's put it that way.
So, what do you do about this? How do we fix this verification of benefits problem? What are the best ways to
Okay.
handle this in your office?
Great question. One is to take the time to streamline as best you can verifying benefits. My first recommendation is to connect your clearinghouse, if it can, with your software so that you can just put patient data in your software, hit a button, and your verification pops up. Now, I will grant you that there will be times, not often, hopefully, that you might have to pick up the phone and take the 20 minutes to get somebody on the line because the verification isn't clear or doesn't give you enough information.
But
Most
again,
of the
it's not
time,
50 patients a day.
no. But ask. The other thing is, so streamline as much as you can, both with your EHR and get on these portals. Get on. If you are calling because you don't have any other way, say stop and say, if I'm calling this carrier, let me get on their website. Let me see if I can connect with a provider portal and get verify online, and do them in batches. So if you've got 3 Blue Cross, 4 Aetna, 3 Cigna, do them in batches if you can by getting the information up front. Number one, number two, those are the things that I would do. Number three is
Mm.
don't be shy about being a little redundant and asking your patient if anything's changed, because oftentimes it doesn't just change once a year. it will change mid-year depending on, especially with Medicaid type plans. There's a lot of Medicaid and Medicaid replacement plans in every state now. So they may drop off of a Medicaid replacement plan and go back onto traditional Medicaid and they're not going to tell you. They're just not going to know enough or not going to tell you. Or they're not providing Medicaid with their information that they were asked to provide to prove that they should be on Medicaid, then they lose it,
Yeah. Well,
right?
they
And
don't
you don't
really
know.
know. Yeah. Well, they don't really know. They don't understand.
Yeah. So those are the few things I would recommend to help streamline because verification it's as important as informed consent when it comes to wanting to get paid accurately and not
It's
having to write
financial
off stuff.
informed consent, right? It's really financial informed consent. I would add, do it in advance of
Yeah.
the patient visit. Don't wait for them to hand you their Medicare or their insurance card on day one. It's the wrong time because you won't have time to do it while they're there. So they're actually going to have services rendered. They're going to accrue a charge, and you don't even really know how that's going to how that's going to get paid for.
And then have something in writing back from the patient. I know we're in a digital world. You want to try to keep things as non-paper as possible. I don't care if they sign it digitally, but have them acknowledge the verification of benefits, the discussion, and any non-covered services ahead of time because it's going to go a long way when 6 months, 8 months later and we always get it in the billing side of things. It's always "They didn't tell me."
They didn't tell me. Even if you did, they're going to say,
Yeah,
"They didn't tell me," because they may not remember or may not have understood at the time, but the bottom line is in advance and confirmation that they understand it. That's actually within the No Surprises Act that you're supposed to be giving them a good faith estimate in writing as the first thing they sign when they walk through the door before anything else. They're supposed to be signing a good faith estimate. So it's a real problem because most board complaints revolve around money.
yeah,
If it's an injury, they're going to get sued through malpractice.
yeah,
But a lot of the board complaints, I won't say most, I'll take that back. A lot of board complaints revolve around money because it's their only
yeah,
resource. So
yeah,
protect yourself,
yeah.
protect your
On the
patients.
boards that I have or serve on, we haven't seen a lot of complaints about money, but the ones that I have seen, I'm saying to myself, like, you're going through this board complaint over like $50 or $100. Like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
I know principally, I get it, but at the end of the day, it's a lot of time, stress, and money that you're spending to defend something that if you just refunded the patient, life would have moved
Yeah.
on. You know what I mean? Like,
And if a patient doesn't understand what their financial responsibility is, I would say take that on. What
yeah.
what is it about your procedures that made it that this patient didn't understand what their
Well,
financial responsibility was gonna be?
sometimes though, Mark, it
Sometimes.
doesn't matter how much you say and what you say.
Right, right.
What
We know that.
remedial school of
We know
verification
that.
you bring them
Yeah,
through.
yeah. I
I know.
know, we
It's
know
hard, I
that,
get it.
but it'll be less. How's that?
Yeah, yeah, I know,
Okay,
I
yeah,
get it, I get it.
yeah.
So
So either we can actually close with the thought, trust but verify, or
I'll say this, as W. Edwards Deming said, "In God we trust, all others must bring data."
yeah, yeah.
So get the
So
data,
get
verify
the
it,
data.
and then trust as far as
And
I'm
you will
concerned.
avoid most conflicts over
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, I know. I hope
Yeah.
this was helpful. I don't know. It's such a frustrating thing.
Yeah,
Insurance is
it
frustrating
certainly
anyway.
comes we get a lot of questions that are based in this. The questions aren't about verification of benefits, but the reason why there's a question is because of a failure to verify benefits. That might be a better way of saying it. So this is really very important. Just like you said, this is right up there with informed consent because it's a reason why patients complain to you, to the board, to whomever.
I just thought of a great episode we can do.
Okay,
I even have a title, Bitch Fest Insurance. Let's complain. We could spend a
do the
whole
math.
hour on that.
Talk amongst yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. There's so many examples of why I would want to complain about that. But
I
anyway.
love it.
All
Okay.
right, guys. Well, thank you again for listening to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And I'm Dr. Mark Davini. Thank you all.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.